All right, what's up, everyone? This is the Osmo.com NHL Hit the Ice show. We have 6 games to talk about on what is a pretty sad day because this is the last real slate we're going to have for a while in NHL with the All-Star break and then bye weeks on top of that. Joined today by Nolan Kelly. Nolan, how are you doing today?
What's happening? What are these bye weeks? I haven't even paid attention to that. It's just like teams are off for an entire week
Basically,
in the middle
yeah,
of the season now.
it's like they get a Monday through Friday off, or like 6 days, something like that. But yeah, it's really inconvenient for us the way they stack them. So I don't know if you've looked at the schedule next week, but
No, I
it is
haven't.
pretty brutal. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
we're gonna have some terrible slates. I'm guessing.
right. So Tuesday, everything comes back, and it is a 3 game slate. Then on Wednesday, it's a 2 game slate. Then on Thursday, it's a 3 game slate. Friday, we get kind of a real one, 8 games, and then Saturday, it's somewhat back to normal, but really unbalanced for a couple weeks for the rest of the season. So that's all right. But I don't know. Those two, like the 2 and 3 gamers, are fine, but I'd just rather not get a bunch of them in a row if we can avoid
Yeah,
it. So the NHL does have issues with their scheduling, I think, overall. So whatever. But
this is true.
what a
Terrible scheduling. I
yeah,
feel like they're scared of football or something. I don't know.
right. But you'd think they'd balance it out after
Yeah,
the Super Bowl. So I don't know. We'll see. But I just remember looking at it for like scheduling purposes, and it's not pretty for a few weeks in there. But
yeah,
what do you think about tonight's slate? 6 games, a lot of good
yeah.
spots, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of spots I really like. Unfortunately, I think that those spots are going to be very chalky. I think you're probably thinking the same way as I am. We're probably both on this very first game of the slate.
Hmm. Yep, for sure.
So, yeah, just looking at the team numbers, like I was really high on Washington last night, just because I thought like the price point had gone down a little bit because they're creating chances, but they weren't converting on them. Usually, that just means regression is coming. It means you've had bad luck, you've met hot goaltenders. So Toronto's in that exact same boat right now. They are generating chances at the seventh highest rate over the past 10 games. They're number one in scoring chances for in the NHL over the past 10 games. They are seventh best in high danger chances for, and they are converting at the seventh worst rate on all of those things. So Toronto's play hasn't really been bad. It's just that they haven't been converting and they haven't been winning. So now we get some rejigged lines and we get a juicy matchup against Washington, who's giving up the seventh most scoring chances for on the road this season, or sorry, in the last 10 games, and I believe the second most or third most high danger chances for. So we have a pretty darn good matchup for the Leafs tonight.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Yeah. So all right, I'll just go through the normal thing because I think this is the game we're gonna want to probably spend quite a bit of time on.
Yeah,
All right. So Caps 3 implied total, Leafs 3.7, Phoenix Copley expected to go against Frederick Anderson, and yeah, right off the bat, like it's all about Toronto here for me. The Matthews line specifically, I think that's going to be the highest owned line because you don't have Zach Hyman on there. Marlowe gets power play time. People are going to see that. And I just think people are more likely to play Marlowe and Marner and Matthews than Kapanen with Tavares and Hyman.
yeah,
But that doesn't mean like they may not even be over owned. So you can be highly owned, but if you have more of a chance to be the top scoring stack or one of the top two than what your ownership is, like there's no problem playing chalk. So I don't know. I love the Matthews line. I think Tavares will take some ownership off of him. I think there are some other spots that people like that are close enough in price where I'm not actually all that worried about ownership with Matthews, Marner, and Marlowe. What about you here, Nolan?
yeah. So I think like I feel the same way. I'm just gonna have some Toronto too. Like I'm gonna be stacking. They're probably gonna be my most owned line tonight. But I think that there's some value in the Tavares line as well. I think they're probably gonna get like half the ownership. You don't have that power play correlation, but them as a line together in 21 minutes so far this season, which obviously is a pretty small sample size, they're generating 37 scoring chances for per 60, 17 high danger chances for. So that is kind of a sneaky play. I think Tavares probably, that whole line probably comes in at sub 10%, or at least Hyman and Kapanen will probably be sub 10%, and maybe Tavares will be more owned than that. So as a pivot, I like Toronto 1, and I think it's not a bad play, even just in a vacuum.
Yeah, I don't mind the Tavares line at all. I think it's reasonably priced. I think Tavares is an awesome one-off, but he can also create for his line mates. Kind of been playing Zach Hyman a little bit more this year as I've been full stacking more, and I'm okay with it. So you've got the Leafs as a favorite. Hyman may not add a ton offensively, but he's usually on the ice for empty net situations. If he somehow can chip in a point or two, you're going to be in a really good spot if the Tavares line is the one that gets the job done. So they're cheaper, probably going to be lower owned. It makes sense. My lean here is that the Tavares line goes up against Backstrom, Ovechkin, Oshie. And that's not a bad matchup at all. Like, I was targeting really the Caps overall, but I was targeting the Backstrom line specifically. They're giving up, I think, over 13 high danger chances against per 60, depending on what it updated after last night. But I just think the Matthews line is going to get an even better matchup. The Kuznetsov line's playing at a crazy, crazy, crazy high pace, generating a ton, but also allowing a ton, chances, shot attempts, like everything. I don't know if you caught any of that Caps game last night, but they were getting it handed to them. Yeah,
it sounded brutal. Like, I just assumed, like, apparently Sharks just took it to them right off the bat. So
I mean,
it's
right
gonna be the same tonight, right? Like, especially Washington gives up the most power plays in the entire NHL, 78% kill, which is bottom 10 in the NHL. They're probably in a pretty good spot. Like, Toronto gives up a ton of chances, so, like, I think game stacking is wholly viable here, for sure. And it'll probably be a pretty popular move tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not going to be game stacking a ton, and I never game stack intentionally because I'm building with an optimizer for the most part. But yeah, it makes sense. Like, a 6.7 total game, like maybe even closer to 7. Two teams with a lot of offensive talent. Like, the Caps could certainly generate some offense here, even on the back-to-back. Like, they were fine generating last night as well. Maybe they wake up after blowing the game late. It's more of a narrative thing, but just like their season-long numbers, they've just been so bad defensively. Lately, it's gotten even worse. As you mentioned, time shorthanded is a big thing as well for the Caps. They just take a lot of dumb penalties, and then they don't kill them off with much success. So the Leafs, good power play. Riley underpriced, I think, at 5,800, and then take your pick with the top two. I'm going with the Matthews line for the most part, but in my 150 across both sites, like, I'm not leaving out the Tavares line. I want to make that clear.
Yeah. Do you put any stock, like, maybe in this narrative, like, all right, Caps before the All-Star break, they're going to back-to-backs, they're going to really tighten up defensively. Leafs kind of want to tighten up defensively, maybe to kind of, I don't know, just like to sort of end this streak that both these teams on, and we see, like, perhaps a less offensive game than we're expecting.
I mean, it could be. That's not what I'm expecting. I try to just, like, play the numbers, and my numbers are just pointing me all to Toronto here. And then even, like, with my eyes, last night, like I said, I watched most of that Sharks-Caps game, and the Sharks were just all over them, basically the whole game. You know, there were a couple spurts in there where the Caps capitalized on a few of their quality chances. So that's fine. That could happen again. But, the Leafs have been struggling more offensively, but I'm not worried about it here. I think the Caps are pretty brutal defensively. So all over Toronto.
Have some Washington 1, Washington 2?
Washington 2 I like quite a bit as a value. Like I mentioned, they're generating a lot, and they're going to get the matchup against the Matthews line. We don't really have a sample on the Matthews line. We're just kind of assuming it's going to generate very well offensively with Matthews and Marner together. But they're probably not going to be great defensively. And if that's the matchup, if I'm right about that matchup, then the Kuznetsov line I think is a really, really good filler stack. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. Like, they're just a little bit cheaper. I think, like, Washington power play is viable. I don't mind, like, stacking Kuznetsov with Ovi and Oshie occasionally as well. Like, Backstrom just sort of has that assist upside. He doesn't really shoot a lot, so I kind of like doing that on occasion, just getting the power play correlation. But I'm going to game stack this one a little bit and just have both sides of the top two lines, and maybe even a little bit of Toronto 3 as well, though. they're a little bit less appealing without Kapanen on there as well.
Right.
And then just one note, I'm sure people are aware, but Andreas Janssen is out for the Leafs tonight. He suffered a concussion last game.
And then Gardner's expected to be in, right?
What's that?
Gardner is expected.
Gardner, I think. Well, he was on this. He skated this morning.
He played on the
but
power
then he
play
left
too.
early.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's actually going to play or not. I'd say it's just guesswork at this point. But
right. So it's back spasms too. So who knows with that? But I think he's going to play. So
Mark Masters from TSN is reporting that he is. So yeah, just stay tuned. It could be because he's day-to-day and because he's 50-50, that might not be a bad little pivot or little pairing with oh shoot, I just closed my shift chart and I had it out. I don't know. Usually it's Morgan Riley with the top line at home.
Right.
Let me just go back to that Arizona game, double check it. Morgan Riley. It's pretty spread out recently. Certainly their last game. He got a lot of time with Matthews and Brown, that sort of Toronto too. So, but Jake Gardner didn't play. What am I saying? So, yeah.
It's not a huge deal. Gardner's fine if you wanted to play him. If you can't get up to Riley, I think that's fine. But Riley's going to be probably my highest owned player tonight just because of how bad the Caps are defensively and on the power play.
Such a bargain too, right? We've seen him priced in the mid sixes for the last couple months, and now he's down to 5,800 on DK. So
right, yeah. Carlson on the other side I think is fine, but I'm pretty sure I have Riley projected for just more overall points. So Riley's going to be the guy I want off quite a bit more. Carlson's right behind him as far as my projections go, and he's a perfectly fine play. We like defensemen against the Leafs. And then Orlov as well is a little bit underpriced at 3,500 playing with Carlson.
Yeah, so you and Homer touched on that last game. I'm guessing that everything will stay the same from Washington, and so Orlov's chances just skyrocket when he's with Carlson. It's 15 high danger chances for versus 6 when he's with Niskanen. So I had so much Orlov last night, and that cost me a lot because I just assumed that was a great value play where it was, and he did nothing. But he's definitely worth rostering again. He's still cheap and still gets power play 2 times. Going to get 22 to 25 minutes. So I would definitely we'll definitely have some more love tonight.
Yep. Goalies here, we got Anderson and Copley. For me, it's going to be a lot of Freddie Anderson, 7,500 home favorite. I'm not really worried about the big total. If he gives up 2 or maybe even 3, he could easily pay off here.
It's really not that big a total too.
3 against him.
Right? 2.8.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
2.9.
Yeah. So I am a little worried about the Caps being able to generate on the back-to-back, but if Anderson was over 8K, but 7,500, I think that's a pretty good price for him, and it's more than his talent says he should be priced at. So I like it. I don't like Copley. I think he could get smashed here. I don't know. What about you?
I think if I'm going to one goalie, it's going to be Anderson for sure. Copley's totally a contrarian play, which is fine for GPPs. If you really want to get into it, but I just like the Leafs a lot tonight, so I don't even think I'll use him.
Right. Yeah, sweet. Let's move it on to. By the way, do we have a late lock here? Half an hour extra? I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so the slate lock's at 7:30 Eastern. I'm just realizing that now. For some reason, I thought one of these games started at 7, but just be aware that you got an extra half hour for people getting home from work. Take your time. Look over your lineups in that extra half hour. All right, Arizona and Montreal. We've got a 2.5 implied total for the Coyotes, 3.4 for Montreal. Calvin Pickard in net going up against Carey Price, and we've got a pretty big injury on Arizona's side. Nolan.
Yeah, so Oliver Ekman-Larsson looks to be out tonight. He is out. He's been sent back to Arizona to have an MRI in his knee. He left last game. I'm not sure. It looks like, oh God, I forgot how to pronounce this. Lubushkin. You know that? Do you know any idea who this guy is?
God, I have no clue. Ilya
Lubushkin.
Yeah.
He's played 30 games and has 2 points this year, so he's not all that effective. I couldn't find anything on the Coyotes' power plays. I'm assuming that something like Goligoski or Connaughton would step into that spot. That seems to be the most probable, and then Oosterley would just stay in his spot on the second unit. I would assume it's Goligoski. I know that's what Daily Faceoff is assuming, but Arizona's pretty hard to know. They probably have the worst sort of accessible beat writers in the business, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a lot of guesswork with Arizona. Their beat writers just are not on top of it. So don't be surprised if you see like Osterley or Chikrin on the top power play instead of Goligoski. And just talking about defensemen quick. Go ahead.
We just probably won't know either. Like I'm guessing like there won't be any. It's just guesswork, right? Like there's not going to be some late confirmation. So.
Yeah. So for me, just like if you're playing Arizona and just play the good defenseman, I think there are a couple of good values here. I think Osterley is a good value. Minutes have gone up at least 22 in each of the last 4 games. Like he's got some offensive talent. Probably gets a boost with no Ekman Larson. Goligoski, same thing. And then I like Chikrin just as a one-off at 4,700. He's good to go, right? He played last night.
Yeah. His minutes went up 5 minutes with Ekman Larson out as well. Yeah. So
he probably gets.
I think there's some value there. But if you're going cheap, probably Connaughton is the way to go. 2,900. He got 20 minutes last game. He has 4 DK points in back-to-back games. He's always had like some offensive upside too. He's always been like the knock on him is that he's a poor defensive defenseman, not bad offensively. So if you're looking for a sub 3K defenseman on DK and probably the Bearman on FanDuel, I think Connaughton's pretty good way to go.
Yep, I like it. I like it a lot. I think I listed him in the cheat sheets. Under 3K, probably going to play 18, 20 minutes, and he does shoot the puck when he's on the ice. So I like that.
You going you into the Galchenyuk revenge narrative here?
Galchenyuk? No, not really. I mean, same thing for Domi, right? But I don't know.
I would buy it more on the Domi side.
Yeah.
There's one guy in the league who's going to get jacked up for a revenge game. It's probably Domi.
Yeah, but he seems like the kind of guy that would like fight someone and like just spend the whole game in the box. I don't know.
Also true. Which
was a little nerve-wracking for me because I do like his line. With Tatar and Lehkonen on it. They've generated a ton of offense in their very short sample together, but I think they're going to get matched up against this Cousins line with Keller and Fisher, and then probably the Wheel, Galchenyuk, Garland line, which I don't expect to be very good defensively. Arizona on the back-to-back here after winning last night in Ottawa. So that's my favorite line in this game is the Domi line. What about you? What are you seeing on either side, Nolan?
Yeah, like that sounds good. Like I think you could probably pretty much go with either Montreal line, right? Because there's not really a ton of power play correlation. So you have like Tatar is on power play 1 and Domi is on power play 2, and also like the Gallagher Danault line. They have some pretty terrible numbers, That Gallagher Danault Drouin line. It's not a lot of minutes, but they've only generated like 6 high danger chances for and 16 against and some limited actions. So we can see that changes pretty quickly. Like the Arizona one with the Hinostroza and Panic was terrible with step in there for a while, and they've rebounded a little bit. So it might just be a small sample size. But Montreal one grades out really well for Osmo. So I think you're okay with both of these top 2 lines. And then even if you're doing like a Colorado 1 or like one of the more expensive stacks and you want to pop in Montreal 3, you have Hudon on the second power play unit. He's been moved up there. Kotkaniemi's on the first power play unit, and so is Armia. So Montreal 3 is probably my personal favorite third line of the night. What say you?
They're definitely up there for me. Maybe a couple others that I would at least consider. But yeah, I like Kotkaniemi. He always pops for me. I think per 60, like he's a pretty high event player. And then same thing with Armia. So those guys getting power play time along with Hudon, who's expected to play on the second unit. Super, super cheap. Like you mentioned, if you're fitting Colorado 1, I think that's a perfectly fine option. I'm a little worried about the Danault line. I don't know why they broke it up, Danault, Gallagher, and Tatar. Like they didn't have great results, but they were just so dominant at even strength for the most part. Had a little bit of a rough stretch defensively there. So maybe that's why they broke it up. But just the downgrade from like possession-wise from Tatar to Drouin, I think is hurting them, hurting Danault and Gallagher. So I prefer the Domi line. I think they're going to get the better of the matchups. I think we're going to see Danault against Stepan Panik and Hinostroza. Like you mentioned, they've rebounded a little bit. I think the Stepan line is probably the one I prefer, especially if they're going to go up against the struggling Danault line. But I'm not really crazy about anything on Arizona's side. No Ekman Larson, I think, really, really hurts them defensively, but also a little bit offensively. So I think they could be spending a lot of time in their own end here.
Yeah, I think so too. I think like Montreal's, they've been pretty porous defensively lately, but not terrible offensively. So I'm not gonna have. I don't think I'm gonna have any Arizona tonight, to be honest with you. Even though, well, maybe a little bit, just because you never know if Montreal's defensive woes are going to continue. But their goaltending has been so good lately. And then yeah, you have them on the second of back-to-backs, missing their best defenseman, not having a great offensive upside to begin with, and one of the lowest totals in the slate. It doesn't really shake out well for them tonight.
Yeah, I'm worried about that for sure for Arizona. Just seems like a pretty big letdown spot after your top defenseman goes out. They've had injuries all season. They get back Chikrin. They just got back Goligoski as well. And so now your best defenseman is out, guy who plays 25 minutes a night. So
yeah, and Osmo had them as like, I think B. Oh, was it B points grade last night? A was like the
step online. Yeah,
step the highest, the lowest price B grade, and they performed pretty well. They're a little bit worse tonight. They're C grade, so wouldn't be as high on them. Bigger
D injury: Ekman Larson or Eric Johnson? What do you think there?
Oh, Ekman Larson.
I think Ekman Larson, but it's not that far away. Johnson, he's a pretty good defenseman.
Just the margin of error is so slim for Arizona.
Yeah, that's the thing. Great penalty kill. The issue though is I'm pretty sure Ekman Larson's a big part of their kill. I admittedly don't watch a lot of Arizona hockey. I don't usually pay attention to who's plays in the kill all that much, but maybe that hurts their kill as well. And then Pickard and that just seems like a spot where Montreal should be able to create a ton of chances here.
Yes, Ekman Larson is a big part of their kill.
Yeah. All right. What else in this game? Do you like Price at 8,200? Do you want to mention any of these other defensemen on Montreal?
No, but I don't think like Petrie grades out pretty well, and Weber's decent. I don't know. Weber's kind of like, I never know what to do with Weber because he seems so dependent on like just getting like a slap shot from the point for a goal. But he has produced, and he's in a pretty good spot. At least Arizona's fantasy weakness is giving up points to defensemen. So, I don't mind either of those two tonight.
Yeah, I think I'd like the value on Petrie. I think Petrie and Weber are pretty similar. And again, the power play, not the greatest matchup for Montreal. So, I'm not crazy about Weber, although he's been doing a better job getting on the score sheet. 4 points his last 3 games. Just would like to see him shoot a little bit more like he was right when he came back. He was just shooting like a madman, and now it's just kind of gone away. So the attempts have gone down.
Yeah, I agree. Though he's blocking shots, I think, right? That's about it.
Yeah.
He's getting he's a good price. Like for what is he, 5,500?
55, yeah. It's okay. Yeah. I think I'd rather go to a couple other guys ahead of him. And then I'm not really crazy about Price here. It's 8,200.
Just the shots. I don't think there'll be enough shot volume for him to have a huge night. Like, he could stand on his head and get a shutout, but I think Montreal does allow a ton of shots.
Right.
And have been, but I agree. Like, I'll probably have a few shares of Price and some lineup stacks, but other than that.
Yeah, I'm not getting the Price all that much. All right, let's go to Minnesota and Colorado. We've got a 2.8 implied total for the Wild, 3.2 for the Avs. Devin Dubnyk in net against Philip Grubauer. No Semyon Varlamov here. Do we have any big news we need to share outside of Eric Johnson being out?
Yeah, I don't think so. No.
I didn't see anything, so.
Yeah. You've got Eric Johnson's been out a couple games, though, right?
Eric Johnson, yeah, he's been out. I haven't really noticed all that much, but he's out. So maybe has Barry's minutes gone up or Gerard? These guys.
Tyson Barry, just double check right now. You'd have to think Ian Cole or so Barry's went up a little bit last game. Basically, Johnson left with 2 minutes into that last Kings game.
Yeah.
Ian Cole gets a lot of minutes, eh?
Yeah, you get 22 his last couple. So
he always rates out well in the model. I never play him because I always think of him as like a blocks kind of a thing, but
right. Yeah, it's probably not, the greatest block shot spot here at home against Minnesota, but I don't know. Like what do you do with Colorado 1 here is the real question, I think.
It's a good question. So I have one stat. The Minnesota Wild in their last 10 games are allowing the third least scoring chances for on the road per 60, 25.6. So they've been pretty stingy on the road lately. Mm-hmm. And they are generating the 26.4, which is eighth most in the NHL and fifth most high danger chances for on the road in their past 10. So, yeah, something to consider there. I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. I'm probably just going to try and be like a little bit underweight on Colorado 1 tonight. I'm not going to take like a 100% stand, but yeah, just be a little underweight and hope they don't go off. What are you doing with them?
Yeah, I think, oddly enough, I think I'm going to end up overweight on them. I'm not crazy about the Nashville Vegas game as far as each team's top line, which are like somewhat in the range of Colorado 1. I mean, no one's actually in the range of them because they're like $3K more expensive than anyone else. But like those are the lines that are somewhat close. Same thing with St. Louis. I like St. Louis, but I'm able to get a lot of Colorado 1 while also getting a ton of Leafs. So that's exciting to me. I'll probably end up somewhere around the field. I almost always do when you're MMEing because there's just a finite number of lines you can fit in with them and different combinations.
That's the problem, right? Do you like when you're stacking Colorado 1? I've noticed because there's so many finite combinations. Like for example, on the slate, there was a slate a few days ago. There was 5-game slate, and Colorado was owned 25% or something. And I just went outright fade because they were so expensive, and the lines you could match them with were nothing. And so you're sitting there going well, if they're going to be 25% owned and there's 7 decent lines that I can match them with, that each one of those lines, each one of those combinations is going to be owned at least 5 to 10 times in a GPP. Right. So aren't you just better off fitting them at that point? Or do you have to get really creative?
No, I don't. I think you play the lines that fit with them. You don't change your strategies just because there's a super expensive line that's also very good. They almost always grade out, no matter whether they're home, away. They almost always grade out as the top raw point line. So to say I don't like them is probably false, but it's always an ownership thing with them at this point. They actually grade out as an okay value, but it's kind of okay, McKinnon, Landeskog, and Rantanen, those 3 grade out as an okay value, but when you have to factor in what you can fit in with them, it's just kind of a law of diminishing returns, if that makes sense. Once you get priced up so high and you're still a good value, but the rest of your team is not going to be very good values. So it's tough. And I don't like repeating. I don't want too many Colorado 1 with Minnesota 3 lineups. So I'd like to use more uniques on Colorado 1 and just if they do end up going off and a cheap line gets there, then you're kind of somewhat giving yourself an out while still being underweight on them. Because some pros will just hammer Colorado 1 tonight because they grade out so well.
Yeah.
And they'll use less uniques, so they might have 3 or 4 Colorado 1s with Minnesota 3 in the large field tournaments.
Right.
Whereas
and then just mix the goaltender.
Right, exactly. Maybe mix one of the defensemen, switch the defenseman with your stack, which one you correlate. So it's just tough, especially if you're not playing 150. You can still spread it around. For me, it's a little bit easier. I'm playing 100 on DK and 150 on FanDuel, so I honestly don't know what they're going to be owned tonight, but I think there's going to be a lot of ownership in Toronto and probably some in Vegas and St. Louis.
I think
people
also
like the best line too.
I think they come in 15%.
If they're 15, I'm probably over, but I just almost never take a huge stand on them right now, unless it's a huge slate.
Yeah,
it's just really tough.
We got to figure Washington 1, Toronto 2. And Vancouver 1 are going to soak up a lot of ownership, right? That's my early take. And then just the fact that they're $3,000 to $4,000 more expensive on DK, that's going to turn some people off for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they're going to be outrageously owned. They're not over
15 to 20.
Right. If they're not over 20%, that's fine with me. If they're somehow 30%, I would be pretty shocked. They're not going to be higher than the Matthews line. Agreed with Matt in chat. No chance they're higher than Matthews. Maybe at higher stakes in one of the tournaments if people
Toronto too. I would say is probably going to be I'm going to guess 30% owned, right?
I think not in large field. Almost no one gets there in large field unless there's just an egregiously underpriced line. But in the 333, I think you're going to see them over 30%. So that's fine. Maybe you decide what you do with Colorado at different stakes. I think that's generally a smart idea. That's what guys like Osmo and Tom do, and Eddie for that matter. They choose their like exposures based on the different stakes, based on how ownership's going to shake out. So,
right, yeah, that's good that's probably a good thing to think about.
Yes. All right. Anything on the Minnesota side you like, or any of the secondary lines for Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the Minnesota line is kind of cheap, or like each of the Minnesota lines is cheap. You got to figure like Minnesota 2 is going to be the most popular. Minnesota 3, at least a Parise shooting, they have sort of some offensive upside, but there's no power play correlation. I just never get Minnesota right. So like I'm probably gonna have like a few random shares of them with some higher price lines just in case. I'd expect Minnesota 2 to be owned just because it's sort of seems to be like the best value and the best talent upside on there. And I kind of but I'm not going to be super highly owned on them.
Yeah. I like the Rask Aberg Parise line. I kind of like to follow where Parise's going when the lines are all split up like this.
Super cheap.
Yeah, he seems to generate a lot of chances. His line mates are very cheap. And then Aberg and him are also on the top power play together. With Granlund, who I like on the power play quite a bit. Like the Koivu Zucker Granlund line is probably going to grade out as a pretty solid line. But I just don't know where I want to go to target Colorado with these Minnesota lines. Like I wish they'd just stack up a line and go back to Stahl, Zucker, Granlund. But
that's the thing. It kind of feels like all three of these lines are just a little bit weakened right now. But yeah, Minnesota 3 is so cheap, and Parise like 11, 6, 6, 4 shots in his last 4 outside of the Vegas game. He's been shooting the puck so much that he's certainly like could be like a bit of an X factor there. So that line I think will probably go a little bit overlooked.
Right, and Colorado's similar to Washington in that they take a bunch of penalties and don't kill them off very well at all. They're right behind Washington in both categories. So
also true, yeah, that's a good point. You like in the Spurgeon or Sutter on here?
Yeah, same thing, right? It's Suter if you're trying to correlate, if you're doing 4-man stacks. I think you can go to Spurgeon if you're going to the Koivu line, which I think is an okay play, just as a price play, because he does correlate to Zucker and Koivu to a lesser extent on the power play. And then Brad Hunt, new addition the Wild just traded for, basically just for power play stuff. He's 4,300 right off the bat.
He's so expensive, though.
I don't know. Like if he was going to be 32
the whole year.
Yeah, if he was going to be like 32, 3,300, I probably would have taken some stabs at him, just because it is a good power play spot for the Wild. Anytime you play Colorado, it usually is. But I don't really want any part of that at 4,300.
No, that's terrible. We should have our like worst play on the board, and I think that would be it today.
Well, I could probably find some worse ones for you.
Really?
Yeah. No.
Brandon Peary? No, I guess he's pretty good.
Peary?
Brandon Peary, he's just always praised out.
He's a stud. How much Nemeth will I have? Is Nemeth even in the... All right, yeah, he's in the lineup. Yeah, so probably like 80, 90% Patty Nemeth. That guy's just always a lock. No, he's 2,500. Maybe
you never had to this down.
Yeah, don't need to play Nemeth. His minutes have gone up a little bit, but yikes. Even for min salary, could probably do better. Goalies here, Dubnyk, Grubauer. They keep pricing Dubnyk so low.
Yeah. Nice contrarian play, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not super sold on them. Grubauer's kind of priced up. Kind of meh on both of them.
Like you mentioned, like Minnesota's been decent at limiting chances on the road.
Yeah.
It's a one-line team for Colorado. If they can somehow limit them, you're not really worried about the rest of these lines for the Avs, I don't think. So
Dubnyk possibly heating up a little bit. 950, 938, 1,000 save percentage. He's in his last 3 games, so he might be.
Once he came in relief for Stalock in that disaster of an Anaheim first period, like maybe that's just what he needed, is to play some hockey without having pressure on him. Like they were already down. Yeah. I don't know.
That's actually kind of a nice sneak play. Actually, I like that. If you're going to go with Minnesota, or if you're going to do if you're going to pair that Minnesota 2 line, you might as well pair it with Dubnyk, and that'll probably give you an advantage in the field, because I'm guessing a lot of people aren't going to stack Dubnyk with Minnesota 2 or Minnesota 3. So, but they might be popular lines in sort of Colorado stacks or in like Toronto stacks.
Sure. All right, let's move it on to the next game here. We've got the Predators and the Vegas Golden Knights. We have a 2.8 implied total for the Preds, 3.1 for the Golden Knights. UC Saros going up against Marc-Andre Fleury. Surprise, surprise for the Golden Knights. He's just going to start every game this season, it seems like. What about injury news here, Nolan? We got anything?
Just Ryan Johansson returning from his 2-game suspension. Colton Sissons moves down to the second line with Fiala and Smith. Benino, Yarncroc, and Watson are all back together on Nashville 3. And I think that's it from Nashville. And I don't think there's any changes for Vegas either, unless it's was Hunt playing.
No, he was not playing.
No.
He'd been scratched like 70% of the games.
Still got, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so two teams I don't really like attacking all that much. I mean, decent total for Vegas. I think the one line that I'm going to have a decent amount of exposure to, like double digits here, is the Stastny Pacioretty Tuck line. I mentioned in the article this morning and stuff I was looking at last night was just Fiala and Smith. Even when it's been Turris between them, it doesn't really matter all that much. They've been pretty poor defensively. Like last season, they did a really good job limiting the high danger chances and stuff. But this year, 11.6, I believe, for that duo. So I'm expecting the Stastny line to see the most time against them, even though Vegas doesn't really hard match. For the most part, I think we're going to see Carlson go up against Ryan Johansson, Forsberg, and Arvidsson. I haven't looked a ton at how the period experiment has gone, if that's made Vegas one worse defensively, but I'm going to check on that right now. What do you like in this game, Nolan?
So I think like Vegas as a team is generating a ton of chances in the both at home and just over both home and away over the past 10 games. They're like second or third in the NHL in scoring chances and high danger chances for. So maybe part of that was that one game where they blew up and had like 7 goals. But I kind of like the Vegas side a little bit of this, but I'm guessing it's going to be a pretty defensive game. I mean, the Vegas totals aren't all that high if I'm right on that.
Yeah, 3.1, 2.8.
Yeah, so I'm thinking it's going to be like a 3-2 game probably. We'll definitely have some Vegas 1 and Vegas 2 in there. Vegas 2 is probably my favorite of them. But I guess Vegas 1 is now getting the power play time. So that's I don't know.
Yeah, I like that they fully correlated. I like that Vegas fully correlated their lines. And I'm not saying like Carlson line's a bad play. I just have way more lines around their price that I like better, that project out better for me. So I'm not going to get to a lot of Vegas 1. And then kind of same thing with Nashville. Like you're going into Vegas, they're really good at limiting high danger chances. They're playing very well after kind of a blip on the radar against the Wild last game. They had won like 7 or 8 straight. Now their schedule had been pretty soft. They got teams like the Blackhawks and the Rangers and the Devils without Taylor Hall and the Ducks. Kings, I'm looking at their schedule now because I saw something on Twitter. Coyotes too. But then they did have some pretty big wins as well. Like they hosted Pittsburgh and beat them down. They competed with the Sharks. They did not beat them. I think they lost late there. But
that's a good point though. Like I forgot to kind of check their schedule here, but you're right. Like playing a lot of teams, giving up a lot of chances. Right. Rangers, Ducks, Devils, Penguins as well, Sharks on the road. So that's probably Habs. That's probably a big reason why their numbers have been so good lately.
Right, and they did what you'd expect them to do against those teams. So
yeah,
that's fine.
A little bit tougher tonight.
Right, yeah, way tougher tonight, especially getting Johansson back. There's just kind of two teams I'm not gonna be wild about. Like there's a lot of offensive talent, and like Homercles always talks about wide range of outcomes. I don't really see it here. I don't know. I'm just not going to be heavily exposed to this game besides Vegas.
Yeah,
2.
I agree. Like you've got spread out scoring from each team and fairly low totals, so it's probably like I would guess that no one's going to go off in this game, or if I was to bet on it. Yeah. But that's just my take. Although I do like on the defensive side, like Colin Miller's still pretty cheap, and he's in the power play 1. He's getting decent amounts of ice time, so I kind of don't mind that.
Getting on the score sheet a ton too, Miller.
Yeah,
he's a guy that shoots like per 60 when he's getting like 13, 14 minutes, it's really tough to play him when he's all of a sudden getting 18, 19, 20. And I think he saw even 21 last game. Like, that's when you want to play him, when he's at 4K. So
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So he's like, I think he's probably my favorite play in that 4K range today.
Sure. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. All right. And then Yossi on the other side, I think it's a fair price for him. As a one-off, there's no issue ever really taking shots with him. He's the guy I would want. Not wild about Subban or Ellis or Ekholm. I just don't think it's that great of a power play spot for the Preds. So
that Yossi Subban combo has been pretty good lately, though. 16 high danger chances for since they've been put together, but pretty high event as well. 16 against. That's in 77 minutes.
Right, and if you think about it, like they're playing a lot with Nashville 1, and both those guys can move the puck so well. That is just it makes sense. Like that should be one of the best pairings in the entire NHL, at least offensively. What do we got for goaltending? Saros and Marc-Andre Fleury.
Saros breaking in his new pads possibly today. So there's.
I heard he's not wearing them.
He's not?
Yeah.
Okay.
So no gold pads. But
second he puts those new pads on, I'm stacking up. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Probably won't even matter, but it's something. I mean, this is. I think we're both expecting this to be a pretty low event game, so. I'm probably not going to have too much of either goalie. It would probably just be correlated if I did have them. Do you like either one of them?
Not much. I like the price on Saros. He's the kind of goalie that can stand on his head when he's positioned correctly. So 7,100, like I'll take some shots there, but I'm just not getting to a lot of teams, and I'm trying to correlate. I don't think it's again a great goalie night outside of Anderson. So. Yeah. I won't be playing a ton of either of these guys, but
it's tough because like both these teams generate shots at a pretty elite level, but they also suppress shots at an elite level, and they're both bottom 5 in that category. So I don't know what gives away, but I get maybe like that Homer Cleese point about sort of a range of outcomes is right. Like we also have two pretty talented offensive teams too. So you can kind of see this going the other way. Right. And I don't know. It's probably like I would expect Vegas 2 to be owned, and then that's probably like I'm guessing that's it for high ownership. Like these other lines are probably going to come in like just north of 7% maybe.
Yeah, and both of these top lines are around the same price as a couple of the Toronto lines. So like the ownership's going to be low. If you see something you like here, like don't be afraid to go overweight. If you want to get away from the field,
especially Nashville 1.
Yeah, I'm just eating the chalk tonight, so I will not be doing
that. Eat that tasty chalk. Love it.
All right, we've got the Blues and the Ducks. 2.9 implied total for the Blues. 2.6 for the Ducks. Jordan Binnington going up against John Gibson. What do we have for news? Couple line changes on St. Louis.
Last minute line changes here. Just kind of broke a couple hours ago. Shen is up on St. Louis 1 with O'Reilly and Tarasenko. Bozak returns from IR. He's on St. Louis 2 with Schwartz and Steen. Zach Sanford returns from injury. He's with Sundqvist and Maroon. Looks like the power plays are going to stay the same. Shen's not on the power play 1. Maroon still is. Sundqvist is. So there's not. Although this is, I don't actually know if we know this or if this is just a daily face-off not updating. Did you get any inside info on the Blues power play?
I don't. It's the same as it was last game. Sundqvist has been on there. Who knows if that sticks, but
I would assume it's staying the same. I didn't see anything that would lead me to believe it wasn't, but
right. Yeah, I didn't see anything either. So
but yeah, so you get 2 out of 3 correlation there, and then 2 basically just scrubs.
Right. So pretty low total for the Blues here. I think this top line's going to get some ownership. Nowhere near Toronto 1, I don't think. Especially now that there's no Maroon, so it's not fully correlated. Plus, you've got to pay $1,600 extra to get Shen, double center. Maybe that takes some people off of the entire stack. But I still think O'Reilly and Tarasenko are for sure going to carry a bunch of ownership here. Ducks pretty good target when you're talking about power plays. St. Louis has been playing as well as anyone. We look at the underlying numbers, the last 10 or 15 games, and then kind of got a stacked top line. Not really worried about Getzlaf and Raquel. That combo's been pretty poor. Yeah. They've had this revolving door with their other winger, whether it's been Richie at times. They had Aberg up there. Kasha would be really nice to see. Like they just haven't found the someone that's going to improve them defensively just yet. So That's
Yeah.
probably going to be the hard match with no
The
Kessler.
Ducks didn't have a single line above 15% of 5-on-5 last time. So if you're stacking them, I would say be a little bit wary tonight of correlation.
Yep. And then no Kasha on the second line kind of really makes me want to limit how much I'm actually stacking the Ducks outside of some Getzlaf and Raquel. Kasha's the guy that makes that line go, Henrique and Richie. So
Blues away 30 over the last 10 games, 31st, first in the NHL in scoring chances allowed. So they're just shutting down opponents. So you might want to consider. I might just outright fade the Ducks, and maybe the Blues might kind of fly under the radar here a little bit, with people being scared of Gibson. But this is a pretty good matchup for them, I think. Anaheim, though, they're not as bad as they were at the beginning of the year, which was well documented. They've still been pretty bad at giving up chances, but
yeah, and now they're hurt again, right? So there's no Kessler, there's no
exactly.
At least they're forwards, and no Kessler, no Kasha. What are they going to do? They brought up Terry and Max Jones.
Very untalented group.
Yeah, it's really tough outside of Getzlaf and Raquel, and those guys haven't even been good defensively. So it's going to be tough here for the Ducks. I really like St. Louis 1, and I don't really love the look of any of these other St. Louis lines. I don't know that we've got a ton of a sample size on any of them. Same thing goes for the Ducks lines with Shore coming up, and then no Kasha. Who knows about this third line for the Ducks? So really one line for me in this game that I want to play a lot of, and that's the obvious one, I think. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ducks bottom 5 in scoring chances allowed and high danger chances allowed in their past 10 games.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, bottom 5, meaning they're giving up a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Perfect.
bottom 5 in both. So, yeah, definitely a sneaky play tonight. I like St. Louis 1 a lot. I think it's probably they're still pretty reasonably priced, but a lot of people have been on them lately, so I don't know if that holds true tonight or what. But maybe with the late start, the Gibson matchup on the road, that might suppress ownership a little bit. But also adding Shen to that line makes them a little bit better. So,
yeah, definitely could. All right, let's do. Am I echoing a little bit on your computer? I can't tell.
No, you're good. Is it me?
I think I might have been echoing there for just a second. But anyways, what about defensemen here? Do you like any of these Ducks 4K guys or Pietrangelo?
No, I'm not really getting to anything. I don't mind like Pietrangelo in a stack, but not really getting to him.
Yep, Pietrangelo and stacks for me. I'll probably get a little bit of each of Montour and Lindholm as one-offs. Those guys grade out pretty well for me, and if we're expecting a lot of St. Louis shot generation here, those guys both block shots, especially Lindholm for 4,300 A value in Osmos grades as well.
Montour's minutes are up. Fowler's basically done nothing since he's been back, so hasn't had more than 2 DK points.
Really? That's really bad. Wow.
Yeah. They just kind of cancel each other out. I think all of these 3 defensemen. That's my main problem with them good values now. Like Lindholm was priced up at 5,500 for a while, so he's at least down to like a respectable price point.
All right, and then Binnington and Gibson. I think Gibson's going to be somewhat popular. People always like playing Gibson.
Yeah. I recommended someone play him in chat earlier, and I'm like regretting that now. I don't know. I mean, he's always good as a one-off. Just because he can steal games, so don't hate him as like just sort of if you're trying to differentiate your lineups a little bit, or not stacking him with Anaheim just because who knows, he's one of the best goaltenders in the league. And Binnington on the other side correlate with St. Louis. Mm-hmm. Have a little bit of him. Yeah,
I like Binnington a lot, even kind of as a one-off.
Yeah, I saw him in your cheat sheet there as like one of your higher own goalies.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's gonna be one of my highest owned for sure.
Nice.
All right,
no, I was not on him.
Yeah, now you are. Last game of the night, we've got Carolina and Vancouver. 2.9 implied total for the Canes, 3.1 for the Canucks. Alex Nedeljkovic going up against Jacob Markstrom. Ignore that speed bump that I just went over trying to say this man Alex's name. But
first NHL start?
Yeah, first NHL start. I don't know. What else on this one here. Line changes for
Okay.
Vancouver.
So we got Sven Berchi up on Vancouver 1, which with Besser and Pettersson. So that's a huge upgrade, I think, for that line. I think Levo is like pretty, obviously not clearly as offensively talented as them, but looks like the power plays are the same. So I would expect. I think Levo was up there last time as well. And then for the other Canucks lines, just let me pull it up here just in case. Do we have them on the screen there?
Yeah, they're up on the screen.
Okay, nice. I think Levo's down on Vancouver 2 with Horvat and Granlund, and then for Tannins with Sutter and Roussel. And I don't know, I forgot to check in on this, but the Canucks were using that Beagle Eriksson Mott line as like a pretty like they were getting a lot of ice time as a shutdown line. So that probably won't be the case tonight with Carolina not really having a clear shutdown line. But if you're looking for keep an eye on Vancouver 4 anyways. At least Eriksson's got a little bit of talent. I think if they were to get a lot of ice time in a matchup against a top line that did give away a lot of chances, you could see sort of a path to rostering them.
Right.
Like in the Colorado stack or something.
Right. Yeah, I was actually looking at that just to see what Vancouver did after we were on with the Beagle line matching randomly.
Yeah.
They didn't do that last game. They just kind of rolled lines, and it was against Detroit. So that was pretty odd. Like, wouldn't you want a hard match against Larkin and just try to take him out?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of done trying to read Vancouver. They've really matched with all these lines. Like, they've matched.
They do, because they kind of
Sutter.
feel like they have 3 centers that can go, basically, right? Like, they want to put Pettersson out in the spot where any kind of offensive zone start or any offensive opportunity. And then, I feel like Green is comfortable with Horvat, Sutter, or Beagle in any sort of defensive situation. And then it depends on, whatever PK and stuff like that. So
Right. And, they've matched with Horvat a ton this year. So, they like using Granlund in the shutdown role, too. So they could use Sutter. They use Sutter as the shutdown comp. I don't know. So I don't know that line matching is all that important anyways here. Carolina is on the back-to-back, I believe.
Yeah, and also it looks like Ferland left last game. I'm guessing he will be out as well. Hayden Fleury is their only other healthy player, according to one of their beat writers. Yeah. So they will go 11-7. I don't know if Fleury or who would step into that fourth-line role, or if they would just alternate. So that should create some interesting combinations. It looks like Svechnikov was with Martinuk and Teravainen, Aho with Niederreiter and Williams, and then McGinn, Walmark, and Menelainen, Saku.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what you're thinking here. I think Vancouver's going to be pretty chalky. I think Markstrom's going to be pretty chalky, but I think also with good reason. I'm expecting a big game from Vancouver 1, and obviously the nut spot for goaltenders is always just going up against Carolina 1 because of their shot generation.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned it. Goalies against Carolina. I think Markstrom's fairly priced. He's a home favorite, 7,600. Not really a ton to talk about there. I'm not worried about goalie ownership, especially not with him tonight. I don't think it's going to get out of hand. And then we've got Vancouver 1's going to be the most popular line in this game, I would think. Initially, I was looking to see if you could maybe make a case for playing a ton of Carolina 1, and I like that they're fully correlated on the power play. The issue is that Vancouver is not committing any penalties lately. So they're for the season, they're 7th most time shorthanded, and they've just fallen off a cliff in that. So 18 times shorthanded in their last 8 games in January. So, and they're killing off penalties very well in that short sample as well.
I mean, the return, the one thing that Beagle and Sutter do well is kill penalties, right? So you would have to expect that their penalty kill is going to be fairly towards the top of the league right now, or towards the top of the league moving forward, especially with Tanev back there too. That's just a solid. There's some solid defensive players that you can throw for PK.
So I've been targeting against Vancouver for a while now, but I don't really love it here. And just numbers wise, without taking into account any line matching, I'm still not getting to a lot of Carolina, especially on DK. I think I'll have more of them on FanDuel, where I like some of their prices better. But I don't know if these lines are even going to stick outside of the top one. So
that's the thing, right?
They're just a little bit overpriced for me on DK with Aho at 7,400 all of a sudden.
Yeah. I'm expecting a big game from Vancouver 1. I think as well, Pettersson's been among the most productive players in the entire NHL this year, and he's priced. Well, I guess he's priced fairly. He's at 6,900. So I think I'm going to be high on Vancouver 1. I'm just going to eat the chalk there as well. And I'm pretty happy to pair them with Markstrom. I think they get a win here tonight. Carolina on back-to-backs. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think Vancouver could be sneaky chalky here. I wonder if they get more ownership than St. Louis 1. They're similarly priced,
they
and
will,
they're at
for
home,
sure.
right? So,
Yep.
okay. I'll probably end up on more St. Louis 1. I'm going to be underweight on Vancouver 1 on DK, especially. I'm getting to, again, more of them on FanDuel. So my DK lineups won't have a lot of Vancouver 1, but that's just how it goes, I suppose.
We will see who wins this battle.
Yeah, could be a huge ownership edge if you swap to the right Carolina lines late. Yeah, I mean,
that's true.
We talk about that all the time. Like, if you can make the swap, if you can get full correlation, if there's some late line changes, I would say 80 to 90% of people will not make the change. So if you are, and maybe it's even more than that, maybe it's more like 95%, especially late.
And like, I think one of the things you can do, like, this doesn't even necessarily mean you don't have to be drawing dead, but you can kind of like be in a position where, like, because these prize pools are so top heavy, you kind of have to be you kind of have to realize, like, the majority of money you're going to win is from taking home a top 3, right? So if you're like in 40th spot or something, and or I don't know, like 200 spot, let's say, and you've got like the Vancouver 1 line, but you don't have the nuts, there's like 5 guys ahead of you that have that line, consider switching out. Like, I think in the long run, you probably won't win as often, but you probably have a better chance of getting up near the top if you make that late switch.
Right. You need a top 5 cash. Like, if you're like spraying in these tournaments, like multi,
the double ups just don't matter. Like, it's nice to get them, and it's nice to.
It's like 1.5 times. Like, So actually, good example of that last night is something I should have, like, I thought about doing. I had here. Let's go to FanDuel. This was last night. I had 150 lineups. I saw one that was close, and I think I was in like a 3-way tie with a bunch with a few other people. And let's see, where did it end up? Right here. I think this is it. Yeah. So I had obviously all these guys went early. Washington won, Arizona won, Burns, Carlson. So everyone was locked, and 2 other guys had the same lineup. At least 2 other. Let's see if we can find them. Yeah. So these 2 also had the same lineups. The same score, 259.1, and I saw this, and we all just had the goalie spot remaining, and I should have done it. Like, hindsight's 2020. I should have done it, but I should have.
Rich.
I should have gone to Howard. I think I could have fit him.
Instead of Koskinen.
Right, because Koskinen was the chalk goalie. I knew he was going to be the chalk goalie. I knew there was a good chance these people, whether they use Fantasy Cruncher or another optimizer, was going to spit out Koskinen for them like it did for me. So I should have made that swap. Kind of kicking myself. I don't know where that would have put me.
It's a huge edge. Like, honestly, even the pros don't do that. Like, I remember, I don't know if Mirage counts as a pro. He's obviously a pretty good player, but he he left in a guy who was scratched in his winning lineup. And it cost him like $3,000. He finished second instead because Middleton was late scratch and Simic was in on San Jose. So even the best of the best forget to do that sometimes. You can gain an advantage, especially just like. Play more when you're hanging around your computer. You're going to be home that night. Play a little less if you're going to be out. Play a little more when you're going to be home. Because if something last minute happens, that's such a huge edge.
Right. Yeah. I think always good to talk about that kind of stuff, especially going into All-Star break. Like, play around with Rewind, see if there's stuff you could have done. If you have Fantasy Cruncher, if you're thinking about using it, Fantasy Cruncher is free on Rewind for anyone. Somehow it's still free. I don't know how, but you can go back and try out Fantasy Cruncher. Before you use it, you could go to our site, just click on Fantasy Cruncher, go to FC Rewind for whichever site you want to do, and just play around with it. If you're thinking about getting into some mass multi-entry stuff. But yeah, good discussion today for sure. 6 games. This is really our last NHL slate, like we mentioned at the beginning of the show. Last NHL slate that's a real slate for over a week now. So save your money and take a few days off. That's what I plan to do. Probably going to play PGA, and that's really
and just enjoy the late breaking news that Pavel Datsyuk might be returning to the NHL.
Wait, what?
I just saw this on Roto World. He might return from Russia.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Let's go. I love Datsuk. I don't care if it's 48-year-old Datsuk. I want to watch him.
He's got to be over 40 now, right?
He's probably pushing it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, interesting.
It's okay.
Maybe he can play Datsuk.
Larionov played till he was like 42.
Yeah, maybe he played Datsuk. First game we get back from the All-Star break when he's fresh. But yeah, guys, it's been a very good first half of the season. We've been happy with the content we've been pushing out. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. And hopefully more to come in the second half of the season, or the second 40% or whatever. Nolan, thanks for joining. You got anything else you want to say outside of make sure you guys give us a like if you do enjoy this? Anything else, Nolan?
Good luck, everybody. Let's get some wins tonight.
Let's do it. Let's go into the break hot. Good luck, guys.